Hey there. Um, Welcome to the first of what I hope to be many videos for Witch's Chamber. Of course, it being the first, I'm like extremely nervous, and this is, I don't know, probably take 300 or somewhere around there. So, oh, what was it? I think 3 or 4 days ago, I put out to you guys all on the page, right? Because, of course, Witch's Chamber began on Facebook. Well, the page itself began on Facebook. Witch's Chamber was my life for the longest time. So I decided to put out on the page a question and what you guys would like to talk to me about, right? Anything. I got some pretty interesting questions. Some I had to obviously delete because, well, unfortunately, they would completely go against everything that Facebook tells me can be posted to the page. So, anyway, now that I've narrowed it down, I thought I'd do a series of little videos like this that go through your questions, answer some of them for you, see how you feel about these things, and then we'll go from there. First one I picked today was from Beth. And she wanted to know what led you to the chamber and when did you realize the craft was who you were and it was where you belong. Well, I think I always knew. The earliest moment I remember a prophetic dream. I was, I believe, 7, and they were dreams that, even to this day I can't explain because I was a child and there was no one really to check it out with or talk to about it. So these are things that I kind of carried along. But the next most significant dream I remember was when I was 13 and my grandmother passed in a whole other country. And I had spent, I guess, the better part of my toddlers, infancy around her. But after that, I had only ever seen her when I was 6 for about, 2 weeks. So I knew her, had a connection with her, but not one that I was totally aware of at that age. She came to me in that dream and told me she was passing. So it was quite the eye-opener. It was like a lesson in ancestry that I had no idea about, right? Because I kind of stayed away from all of that. Like, I just wasn't there yet and ready to embrace my ancestry or anything to do with that. I was a kid and I just wanted to be a kid. And that kind of changed everything for me. It made me look at things differently. It made me think I was different. I always felt different before that, but that was like a big, big eye opener. And I guess for her, I don't believe she called herself a witch. She was a healer, but she didn't really call herself a witch. But I don't know if that was more of a cultural stigma or if it was just, it just wasn't done. I couldn't answer. Unfortunately, she passed before I could ever spend any more time to find out anything or be in the position to want to know anything. That happens to a lot of us, I think. So when did the chamber? What led me to the chamber? I guess that was it. I don't know. I just always knew it was there. So when did I know? When did I realize the craft was who I was? Well, I always knew. But it was more complicated than just knowing, like it is for many people who still struggle with coming out of the broom closet. It was difficult, culturally, religiously. The fact that I was young, I was so young. So basically, I kept that all hidden until I was, what I consider to be autonomous, being married, right? Um, because that was basically the culture I grew up in, right? Like, there, girls didn't have the freedom to make these choices. Not my generation of them anyway. And coming out at that point and saying that I was a witch to everybody would have meant, God, I can't even imagine what that would have meant. It would have been bad. It would have been really bad. And my life was already difficult, so I just kind of kept that to myself and did my own thing. Went and skipped school, bought a set of tarot cards, kept them hidden. Eventually, after I got married at 17, it was something that I brought out more often because, well, I had a little bit more leeway to be myself at that point. I think that's why I got married so young, just so that I could have that leeway, right? But that was just the way it was. So after that, I spent some time trying to be normal, 9 to 5 job, the regular stuff, living that regular life, doing what everybody said you're supposed to do, and then it just kind of went kapow. It didn't work because I wasn't being true to myself. So I ended up one day down on Lakeshore, downtown Toronto, well, Mississauga, and at this little store called The Source Within. And I kind of struck up a friendship with the woman that worked there, or, well, she owned it really. And I became their house reader. And I started reading tarot there all the time. It was the kind of thing that started off with, one client here and there, and then it became, I walked in and I read from the moment I walked in and for 8 hours until I was done. And I really loved it, but it's quite the experience to read for that many hours in a day, that by the end of the day you're exhausted. So I was there for quite some time, and I think that's kind of where I discovered that was who I was, and that was who I was always meant to be. And so basically I just kind of changed my whole life to be me, because the life that I had would have continued to oppress me spiritually, and there was no way I could do that. It was oppressing me physically. It was highly abusive, and mentally and spiritually it was destroying me. So witchcraft in a lot of ways saved me, because it gave me the freedom to be myself. And once I kind of threw open that broom closet and kind of threw myself out there, there was no putting me back. So it opened up all the doors I needed opened. It gave me the freedom to move on, and it gave me the ability to just be me. And if you liked me, you liked me. And if you didn't know, well, everybody else was leaving my life anyway because of what I had opened, that door, right? There was nothing I was going to do about it at that point. And so I started fresh and I started over, and I kind of reinvented myself more authentically, but I became me. I stopped being all the things that I was supposed to grow up to be. I took back the feeling of, I don't know, just standing up and being yourself, because I hadn't been for so long, and here we are. After that, there's a whole lot more in there, but that's a whole other story for a whole other video. And there's quite some interesting things in there, and I've seen some interesting things as far as spells and magic and circles and things that, we'll get into. But for now, that's how I knew where I belong. That's how I knew that the craft was for me, and that's where I found my peace, was in the craft. And magic made sense. Energy made sense, and applying that to my life straightened out everything that I needed straightening out on, and kind of gave me the freedom to keep going. So I kind of owe it all to magic, and magic. Yeah, the craft did it for me. And of course, Witch's Chamber was just a natural growth procession from being that 7-year-old kid to the 13-year-old to the 16-year-old to, the one that became the house reader and loved it. And then from there came Witch's Chamber. And Witch's Chamber, the jewelry side of it came because every single large event in my life or change in my life came usually with a piece of jewelry, like something that would be found or something that would just show up, and then it would be like, oh, well, this is interesting, and this piece of jewelry would stay with me until whatever process I was going through, or whatever transformation or whatever happened, and then it would just magically disappear and I wouldn't see it again. And now something fell on me, so I gotta see what that is. Hold on, I'll be back. And there was the perfect segue. Jewelry, right? I'm talking to you about jewelry and how jewelry kind of became part of Witch's Chamber. And of course, something falls on me. And I go and look what it is. Stop the video, check it out. And it happens to be my Larimar that out of my ring that I was wearing. See, it was right there. And the stone fell out. So, of course, I had to go get my Bruno stone, put it on. But yeah, see, so jewelry and I, we kind of have this weird little relationship. It's like things just appear and they're found by someone, or it's that it just happens. And so that's how I evolved into making magical jewelry, which I've kind of taken a break from now, but I tend to ride the currents and see where the gods want me to go more than where I want to go. I lived that life of going where I wanted to go, and I found it was better to listen to the gods and just kind of, it causes less bumps, right, when I listen to them. So now where they guide is where I go. So that was Beth's question. It was, sorry if I took too long, but I tend to be a little bit long on these explanations. And so let me see if I have another one. I have a 2-part question. But I'm only going to cover one part in this one because, well, the video was supposed to be only 20 minutes, and I think I've talked a little bit too long, but we'll see. So this one came from Katrina Marie. And do you have to be a doormat to be spiritual? Hell no. You don't need to be a doormat. Being spiritual is about, for me, okay, like let's make this clear now. These opinions and these things that I share here, they are the way I look at things. You are perfectly welcome to look at them any way you want. Don't hurt people. Don't hurt children. Don't hurt animals. Beyond that, I don't really care how you worship. But when it comes to being spiritual, it has nothing to do with religion. And it has nothing to do with turning the other cheek. It has to do with a connection to your gods, to what you believe in, whether it be the gods, whether it be the earth, whether you're a Catholic. I don't really care. It's your connection to whatever you believe in, whatever you believe to be what looks out for you, or what you connect to, that you ask for help, or you honor, or you don't. There are so many people who don't honor anything, or, well, they don't, it's not that they don't honor anything, but they don't necessarily believe in gods, or they don't believe in the earth. They just believe in being, right? They believe in whatever they want to believe in. But that's what being spiritual is about. It's not about saying yes to everybody so that, well, because, you read cards, so you should just read my cards for me. Or because you do this, you should just, you make jewelry, so you should just make me a piece of jewelry because, well, I want one. That's not anything to do with being spiritual. Even even when it comes to being spiritual, even when they're asking for something on a spiritual level, you still have to decide if this is something that you want to do, right? And helping people is great, but draining your own well in order to help everybody else, it's never going to get you anywhere. Because you can't, I don't know who I'm quoting, but I know it's got to be somebody. I'll have to look it up later. But yeah, you really can't feed others from an empty well. So you have to take care of you. You have to make sure that you can say no and you have boundaries, because boundaries are important, even to us spiritual people and even to us witches. Boundaries are really important. They are not things to just give everything away, right? So, no, you don't have to be a doormat. You should not be a doormat, because if you are a doormat, then you're basically not taking care of you spiritually, and you're not living authentically, and you're letting everybody else take everything from you. You know, I have to take that advice sometimes too, trust me. It's really easy to do that. And okay, is magic, her second part of the question is magic for personal gain against spiritual laws? No. No, not really. You still need to live. You still need to eat. You need to put a roof over your head. And you need to take care of your family or yourself or your pets or whoever. All of these things that they cost. So if you're doing magic to make your life easier so that you don't have to do this and you don't have to struggle, how is that wrong? I mean, in my books, again, as long as you're not hurting anyone, as long as you're not hurting children, or animals, or doing anything that is detrimental to others, how can taking care of your own needs and making sure that you can provide be wrong? You know, just doesn't make sense, right? I think for me, I've always believed that whole concept of saying that something was wrong just was because mostly spiritual people were women and witches. And so in order to control us, it was easier to tell us that it was wrong for us to need personal gain, or for us to work towards personal gain, because then we didn't. And then we felt guilt. And that guilt, that's something that is left over from the Christian thing. You know, being guilty because you want better in your life, or being guilty because you ask your gods for better. That's not wrong. That's life. That's being human. That's believing that you deserve better, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? So, again, my opinions, how I feel, questions that you guys ask me, I'll answer. You may not agree with me. That's cool. I'm not fussed, and I'm not really that hard to get along with. Basically, I think everybody should have their own opinion. We should just all be respectful of everybody else's opinions. And other than that, beat your own drum, figure out your own stuff, and just be kind. It's not hard to be kind to other people while you're doing all of these things. It's not even hard to be kind while you're not being a doormat. So it just matters how you present these things and how you deal with people, and how you deal with people in an authentic way that you can walk away feeling better, right? At the end of the day, we all need that. So I hope you enjoyed this first video from Witch's Chamber. Like I said, it probably took me 300 or 400 takes to get this done. It probably will have all kinds of glitches and need all kinds of editing, but it's done now. And I hope that you'll tune in for some more. And I will take some more questions on the page, and I will be back to see you again probably. I don't know. I'm really bad at setting dates and times on when I'm going to do stuff. So I'm just going to let this kind of ride. And when I feel it, I'll post. Other than that, you can always find me on Facebook. And on there, I'm still Witch's Chamber. And Instagram. Other than that, I hope you have a great day and see you all later. Bye.